So my name is Bob Zimmerman. I used to be the executive director of the Charles River Watershed Association for 28 years, better part of 30 years. And I'm currently teaching at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. Basically, what I teach is environmental restoration as the basis of how to save the world. Most of the impacts we proved at CRWA when I was there are a direct result of our building Boston or New York City or Los Angeles and seeing a creek and wetlands and saying, I'd rather build a 65-story building there. So why don't we just bulldoze those into submission, and that'll be good. And then we can build our 65-story building and everything is fine and dandy. The problem with that is that the last time New York flooded, which was about a year ago, September, as I recall, if you look at the mapping from history, last 200 years or so, and you go back to the beginning of that, you'll see that there used to be a lot of creeks, wetlands, tributaries, and the like. And Mother Nature, the world's largest woman-owned firm, right, is pissed. And so when she brings a big storm, what she does is she makes those creeks and wetlands come back. If you look at North Carolina in the Boone and Asheville area, and you looked at historic mapping of that area in 1900, and then overlay what happened when Hurricane Helene hit, what you're looking at in Hurricane Helene is exactly what nature had constructed there, and we destroyed, or certainly greatly modified. And all of those great modifications are gone. If we want to prepare for what's about to happen to us in the coming 5 to 10 years and then in the coming 100 to 200 years, we need to bring those systems, those natural systems back. We need to restore them. Wetlands, for example, store 4 to 10 times the carbon than forests and forest soils. I'll give you a little statistic. Since 1620, we've destroyed 70% of the wetlands in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the 30% that remain store more carbon annually than all the forests and forest soils of the Commonwealth combined. And the forests have been making a comeback since about 1930 as we've abandoned agriculture in this state. In other words, what I'm telling you is there's a way out of the box, but it does not lie along the path of repairing, rebuilding, extending, and expanding the water and energy infrastructure we've built over the last 2 centuries. We do that, which is what we're intent on doing, by the way. Good luck. Einstein's theory of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, and every time expecting a different outcome. Ain't gonna happen. I have been working over the last 21 years with a couple of close friends at EPA New England on getting a regulation to control nutrient pollution in the Charles River, most of which, 55% of which, comes from commercial, industrial, institutional, and high-density residential properties, not agriculture, not medium and low-density lawns where fertilizer is used a lot, not failing septic systems, not soaps getting dumped in the river, which was shocking when we did the science in 03, 04, 05, because everybody told us it was agriculture. It was all of these other sources. And once we found that out, we actually sued EPA in 2008 and lost in 2013 to the Department of Justice on a mandatory duty issue. Nevertheless, EPA New England has come out with this regulation as of about a month ago, and it's going to require, you own Home Depot. You got 10 acres. You're going to have to reduce by 65% the 18 pounds of phosphorus in the runoff, the stormwater runoff from your property. Problem with that for you is in dense urban areas, the cost of that is between $200,000 and $300,000 a pound. Do the math. You're not going to be happy. You're looking at 2.4 to 3 million bucks. Okay? And the problem for us as environmentalists looking at this is that probably what you're going to do is put in a Cultec system, which stores a lot of water under the ground and tries to infiltrate that stormwater over time. That's really pricey because you got to be able to park a 20-ton truck on it. Or you're going to put in a rain garden and eliminate parking spaces, and you're not too happy with that. And the soils that you're on aren't conducive to water draining into groundwater and getting back into the Charles River, okay? What we're saying is you pay about 50% of what you would pay to fix the problem on your property, and we're going to restore the select wetlands, restore select tributaries, which will not only capture and store phosphates, because phosphorus is adsorbed or chemically bonds with soil, right? But it's also going to protect you and the city from flooding. It's going to protect against extended periods of drought. It's going to reduce heat island effect. You get the drift. You restore natural systems. There's this entire cascade of benefits to us. That's what we're focused on. With the regulation, we're about 50% done with the platform where you as a regulated entity, without hiring a lawyer or an engineer, will be able to go on the site, find your property, discover what it's going to cost you if you try to fix your problem on site or comply on site, and then what your suite of options is for buying credits for periods of time, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, for restoration of these city systems in the city. The cascade of net benefits is off the charts. Reduced cost of compliance, reduced flood risk, resilience to drought, reduced heat island impacts, restored habitat. Remember, we're about to lose 50% of the species on the planet between now and 2050. Maybe we can reverse that. Maybe we should reverse it. I would consider that to be abject failure. The other thing I would add to that, we just went through a pandemic. Any human being who thinks that we might be one of those species is getting it right. The pandemic should have convinced us that we're all at risk. And if we don't start to reestablish the kinds of systems that have sustained the planet, that risk increases every year. When I started at CRWA in 1990, the Charles was literally an open sewer. There was a lot of sewage floating in the river every day, and with combined sewer overflows about 100 days a year, it literally was a sewer. And nobody went there and visited. As a matter of fact, when I interviewed for the job as executive director, I got the distinct impression that the entire board I was talking to didn't believe that the river could be rescued. Okay? Which is pretty much the way we think about most environmental loss. But I'm an old semi-dead guy. And I remember back when Lake Erie was lost. And I also remember when the Clean Water Act came out, within the space of 3 years, Lake Erie was a living lake again from abject dead. The same thing nature has this amazing ability to recreate herself, to live again, to thrive again. We just need to give her the opportunity. When I started at CRWA, I was basically the only employee, okay? And by 1995, I had hired a couple of civil engineers, a hydrologist. I ran my own water analysis lab. I had a couple of biologists, a couple of environmental scientists, an architect, a landscape architect, and a hell of a litigator. We were a consulting firm whose only client was the environment. And one of the first things I noticed as we started to research why the river is in the shape it's in is that everybody else is headed off in this direction. We're looking at the whole river and we're headed off in this direction. And I'm going, what the hell? Everybody's basing the investment of billions of dollars on assumptions, not facts, not the reality of how to rescue ourselves, which is what I teach now. You don't need to move out of Boston to restore natural systems. We need to give up this notion that what we've inherited as the infrastructure over the last 200 years is the only way to do this. No, it's not. Do we drive around in 19th century carriages? Do we think that man can't fly? There is nothing that we did in the 19th century that we don't understand better and haven't improved on, except the environment. We continue to pound away on her because that's what we've always done, this notion of dominion. I think we inherited it from Genesis, isn't it? Genesis 26 through 28. We're given dominion over the fowl of the air and all that kind of great stuff. No, we're not. That's actually a mistranslation. We're supposed to live in cooperation here, and we can. We have to give up the notion that we want nice green lawns, right? Do you know that by a factor of 2 is the largest crop grown in the United States? Green front lawns. And do you go out and harvest those to eat salad at night? No. We can think differently about what a city should look like, and in the process, protect ourselves, reduce carbon emissions. If we were to adopt, with this regulation for the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts, this approach to living in cities and towns in the state, with the restoration of tributaries, the restoration of select wetlands. I haven't done the math on this, but I would be willing to bet you a sizable amount of money on DraftKings that we could meet our 2050 carbon neutral objective by 2030 with the amount of carbon we can begin to store in those wetlands and in those restored riparian areas associated with restored tributaries. What I'm telling you is there's a way out of the box. We're in this climate box and we keep playing this incremental, if I add some bell or whistle to, the way we built things in 1854, that'll solve the problem. No, it won't. When we destroyed those systems, we destroyed an entire cascade of things, and all of those impacts, we run around and pretend we can restore those things one at a time. Or we're going to fix combined sewer overflows. Yeah, but what about groundwater depletion? What about the river heating up and not carrying enough oxygen? You ever walk across a Stop and Shop parking lot and you're in your flip-flops? It's July. The flip-flop comes off. You step on the parking lot. Oh, ouch. And you put the flip-flop back on very quickly. What do you think happens to a raindrop? When it hits that heated surface, it heats up too. It runs off, it goes to the river, and it depletes the oxygen in the river. Heated water can't carry as much oxygen. We can fix this stuff. It's not rocket science, and we can do it in a way where we can actually save people money by preventing flooding, by reducing heat island effect. I'm telling you, I am convinced with the work that we've done, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years, that if we get this right in Boston, in the 3 watersheds of Boston, the Deposit, the Charles, and the Mystic, this is going to very quickly roll out across the country because it's a way to restore the environment and make money doing it.